And welcome everybody to our weekly class. If you don't know me, you should by now. I'm pretty much in most every class we do, just in the background, making faces at whoever's teaching to try to distract them. So today I have a really good class put together for you. You are going to get a lot out of it, whether you have something very small or a very large instrument. I don't know about you guys, but I don't call these organs. What do you guys call your instruments? I'm waiting. Somebody say it. What do you call it?
Virtual orchestra.
Virtual orchestra. Thank you, Carolyn. Virtual
That wasn't
orchestra.
me.
What's that?
That wasn't me.
Oh.
But I was going to say.
Well, I saw your face.
Yes.
You get credit for it. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'll take it.
We call ours the Beast.
The Beast. That's good too. Well, I call them virtual orchestras. And you know why? Because it's not just an organ. You can do so much more. However, today I am going to be talking about the organ side of it. So I'm going to be talking about organs. Organs. And I'm even going to go through a little bit of history on the organ so you kind of know how this stuff is made and where it comes from, because I think that's good to know. But before I get started, I'm going to play a song for you. Let me switch cameras to the side view here, and I am going to feature the organ sound in this and see if you can name the tune here. Thank you. And yes, that was, let's see, any guesses? At Last, I see. Who is that? Jerome? Wow, you know your stuff. That was At Last, made famous by Etta James, and even before that, Glenn Miller performed that as well. And after that, I just threw in Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, because it's one of my favorites. But yes, you heard during that song, you heard a lot of organ sounds. I just played it with a jazz organ on the upper keyboard on my right hand here. Before we start getting into how to pull up these sounds on the instrument, let's talk a little bit about the history of the organ. Does anybody know when the first organ was created? I see a lot of people looking up, thinking for the answers. Let me get a volunteer here. I'm going to put something on the screen for somebody to read. I just need a volunteer to read it. It's just going to be history on the first organ ever made. Who do we got? Just either raise your hand or flail about. Anybody? Nobody today? Oh, my God. Okay, I see Carl. Let's have Carl read it. I saw you raise your hand first. So
I'll do
I'm
it.
going to spotlight you here. Looking good there, sir. And here we go. I'm going to put it on the screen and see if you can pronounce this name for me. Here's the first organ ever created.
The Greek engineer Ctesibius of Alexandria is credited with inventing the organ in the 3rd century BC. He devised an instrument called the hydraulis, which delivered a wind supply maintained through water pressure to a set of pipes. The hydraulis was played in the arenas of the Roman Empire.
That was perfect, and you pronounced the name perfectly too. I was hoping to make fun of you, Carl, for mispronouncing, but you did it just right.
I saw it yesterday, so I learned.
Good. So you looked it up later too, and probably read up on it even more. That's good. But yeah, so that was the first organ created a long time ago. I could even show you too. Let me actually go back to that and kind of show you what it looked like a little bit. It looks a little different than yours, right? A little bit. So it's basically a bunch of water getting pumped into this tank, and it's pushing the air up this little pipe in the center here. So if I look, here's a little bit better of a sort of schematic of how it was created. So it would fill up with water, and it would push the air through these pipes. And why do these pipes make sound? And it's because of their shape and their size. And what I compare it to is, I don't know if you were ever a kid, or even maybe you do it now, but you ever have an empty glass bottle and you blow into it? I grabbed the hardest one to blow into, so I'm going to get lightheaded. I tried that earlier. I couldn't make it do it. I was like, what's wrong with me? And then I got lightheaded and fell down. But yes, if you think about it, that's what's happening, is you're blowing air through a tube or pipe type instrument, and the different sizes of pipes and the different lengths create different sounds, just like if you have a flute or piccolo. Those are very small, so they create a high-pitched sound. Or like this is kind of a bigger bottle. It'll create a lower-pitched sound. So there are all sorts of different things that went into this. After the first organ type instrument was created, they tried other things. They had something like this, which is actually made with wind. It looks very similar, but on the top right there, that's actually a fan, where it would take the air blown by the wind, and you can play your organ. But then you say, what happens if it's not windy? I can't play my organ, right? So then they created something like this, and this might look a little more familiar. And that is a pump organ, where you're actually pumping the air into it with your feet. Kind of like a bellows, or like when you're, trying to push air into the fire to keep it going at night. It's pushing air through those pipes, and when you press one of those keys in, that's what lets the air up through the pipe. Hopefully that makes sense. I just think that stuff's kind of cool to know about, so then you know that even just these little buttons here that just seem like little buttons, they're actually reproducing all those little sounds, all those pipes. And you'll see here, when they started getting more and more creative with organs, they started creating different shapes and sizes of pipes. And you have all these different names, these different styles of pipes. And look at this. Let me show you this one. This probably looks familiar. You've seen this word a lot. Flutes. That's what this one is here. That's what's typically used in most of the organ sounds in your virtual orchestra. So it uses flute sounds. So when we say organ flutes, or flute pipes, or pipe flutes, or, if you ever hear the word flute pertaining to the organ, that's exactly what we're talking about right there. So on your larger series instruments, where you have touch screens and stuff like that, you'll see what are called tabs going all the way across. And a lot of them say flute 16, flute 8. So it'll say flute with a number. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So this is what they look like a little bit closer. What I'm talking about, that's a flute-style pipe. Okay? Hopefully I haven't lost anybody yet. But let's talk about how to do it on your instruments now, and why this matters here. So I'm going to actually go over, because like I said, this will pertain to anybody, no matter what instrument you have. You have these sounds and these pipes and these flutes built in digitally. So you don't have to be blowing air into it or pumping water into your organ. Please don't do that, actually. It's probably not good for it. So let me go over here, and if anybody was in our class yesterday, you know I kind of made a big boo-boo and unplugged my organ doing this the last time. So I'm here at an easy 10, and what's nice is you have all your sounds on the right side, just like any instrument. All my sounds are on the right side, but you have a separate button that says organs. Let me show you a little closer because the camera's kind of far. Boop. Looks like that. I have all my orchestral sounds, pianos, guitars, etc. And then on the left, separately, it says organs. And you see those little pictures right next to it? That looks familiar, right? Like what I just showed you, huh? Those are the pipes. Same things I just showed you, the flutes. So basically, what's important to remember, and anybody can write this down, this is good to know, anytime you touch the organ button on any smaller instrument that has it, it is separate from these sounds over here. So it's going to play those sounds together, okay? So it's not like touching one instrument or the other. When you touch pianos, that organ sound is going to play on top of it. So if you want to play just the organ, just make sure you turn off, boop, the piano, okay? And it's the same with the larger instruments. I'll go over that a little bit more after this. But basically, you want to make sure none of those tabs are on. So I'll talk about that in a second. So I did that. I just have my organ button on. And I'm going to talk about 3 different types. I can't hold up 3 fingers for some reason. This pinky wants to go up. I'm going to talk about 3 different types of instruments, organs that are built in. And you have these all the way down to the Discovery 3, which is the basic 1 keyboard model that we carry, as well as the Freedom 3, the Easy 2 and 4, things like that. They have what's called the Suite organ. So if you touch the organs button, there's one on the screen called Suite. Now you might want to write this down. Suite equals Lowry. So this is the famous Lowry sound. And I'll just play it for you for a second just to kind of show you how it sounds, because it's different than the others. I think it sounds kind of gentle. You might want to play it with something more ballady or pretty, so something like this. So that's just a nice, pretty Lowry organ sound. And what it's doing to get that sound is it's mixing together all these different organ flutes, as I mentioned. And they're all playing at different volumes. It's automatically all adjusted for you to sound just the way Lowry likes it. And if you go on, our second type of organ I'm going to talk about is called jazz organ. Does anybody know where that sound comes from? I know you know. It's Hammond organs. So it's based on a Hammond organ. Anytime you see the word jazz organ in your virtual orchestra, it means Hammond based. So it's kind of based on that Hammond organ sound. And that sounds really good. It's a little bit more percussive. So it sounds really nice with something maybe like, well, really anything. But let me play either jazz music or Latin music. So here's it with just a little bit of Latin music. This is the jazz organ built into the smaller series here. So that's the jazz organ, the Hammond type sound. So sweet equals Lowry, jazz equals Hammond, and then our third type that I'll talk about says pipe. So that's going to sound like you're going to church, you know. So you can either go to church every day at home if you want to and put on that pipe organ, or you can go to, let's say, the opera. So I can put on something like this and go to visit the Phantom of the Opera here. Ooh, big sound. So that is the pipe organ. So those are the three major types, which I'm going to get back to on the larger instruments as well. Are there any questions about anything I've talked about so far? Anybody who has something smaller or like a easy series instrument? Any questions? Just as long as you know, that's how all these sounds are made. It's not just a sound that's built in. It's actually all these little pipes put together. And I'll show you a little bit more about that too. So let's talk about this. I'm going to try to go back to the other organ here without exploding anything this time. Woo! Close enough. That should work. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about now is those tabs and how this kind of works. So if you have a larger instrument, those sounds that I just talked about, sweet, jazz, and pipe, those are still your organ types, but on here you can customize them, and they all have sort of a different, they're made of different layers, which are being played by these flute tabs. So let me talk about that. Let me show you this here. You see how all those flutes there are different lengths? You might notice. Those are actually all the different flute lengths. I'm just trying to get my other camera angled so you can kind of see the tabs a little bit better. That's a little better. Okay. But you see that those are all different lengths of pipes and different sizes. That's what these tabs are here. So if I go to this camera, let's see if this looks a little better. It's kind of hard to get too up close, but as long as you can kind of see the lights here. I'm going to turn these all off. Turn everything off here. And now I have no sound. Uh-oh. And what I'm going to do is kind of show you the difference between a lot of these tab sounds. So here's what's good to know. Let me actually go back to this. Let's say I have a smaller bottle. Do you think that's going to create a higher pitch sound or lower pitched? Higher. Yep, I see thumbs up. Good job. Yeah, higher pitched. It's going to be a higher pitched sound. So you can think of it that way. The higher the number, like if you see the first tab on here, it says flute 16. That means 16 foot. It's a 16-foot tall pipe, which is huge. So it's going to be a low sound. And the one all the way on the other end says flute 1. So that's just a 1-foot flute. So let's go back to here and kind of show you the differences so you can hear them. Let me put one on. Here's flute 16, so just the low note. Oh, I had it turned off. It might be hard to hear. You might need headphones for this part, but that's the low one. And as I go through the different ones, you'll hear it change. So I'm going to go through all of them. Yeah, you can just barely hear that high-pitched one because it's so high up there. If you have headphones on, you'll hear it, but otherwise you probably can't even hear that. But what's nice is what the Lowry organ here is doing is as you go through what are called presets here, you see all those lights changing for you? That's because it's setting up all those organ sounds so that you don't have to. So keep that in mind and look. So on the right side, I have all these flutes on this side in different combinations, and you can play them together like that if you want. Or pick different ones. And it creates a completely different sound based on what you have selected. So if you want to get really nitty-gritty and specific, you can go through all of those and find different sounds that you like played together. But that's a little advanced. What I would do is, which I'll talk about next, is use presets. So don't worry about setting it up on your own.
Sean,
Did you have a question, Carolyn? An easy question, I hope, right? Come on, right?
Right. Go back where you started, where you had everything off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go in the middle of the top keyboard, does that change the sound of the number one flute? Because you're in a lower part of the top keyboard. How does that, can you demonstrate that, please?
Can you say that again? I don't know if I lost you for a
Okay.
second or if it was my internet or what, but
You
it cut out.
started at the with nothing on the flutes.
Yep.
Okay, everything is off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go to the middle of the top keyboard, how does that affect the sounds for the 16 through the number 1? Wouldn't it change the sound? You would hear on the where you played the last one, you couldn't hardly hear the number 1. But if you go in the middle of the top keyboard, it'll
make a little bit of a difference. It's playing the same note through that pipe, that size pipe. So if you play a C note, it's playing that C note through whatever sized pipe.
Correct.
If you play a lower C note and play it through that same pipe, yes, it's going to sound a little bit lower.
Okay.
But it'll sound really muddy. That's why when some people are playing these organ sounds, and if you notice that 16 one is on, the big one,
yeah.
If you're playing down here, you might notice it sounds muddy.
True.
Sometimes that's why, because it's playing a really low note through a really big pipe. So it's getting a really boom, really muddy
Good explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Great question. Great question. So what it's doing, all these preset sounds are going to be combining those different flutes for you. And that's as specific as I'll get today. That's making it difficult, is kind of doing it all on your own. And keep in mind too, you have the ones on the right that I've been talking about called upper tabs for your upper keyboard. And then on this other side, oh my goodness, I have lower tabs too, so I can control what's down here on the lower left keyboard. And it works exactly the same. Okay? They usually just don't put the lower one, the 16 one down there, because it's so big and it makes it sound really gunky if you're playing your left-hand chords with a low note, you know. So there are a few less flutes on that side. Okay. Any other questions so far before I kind of get into the fun stuff or the easy stuff? I will mention one more thing here. You can, if you want to get really specific, when you have these tabs on, if you really want to, you might have heard this word before, and it scares a lot of people. It's called drawbars. You have drawbars in a lot of these touch screen instruments. If you touch all the way on the bottom left of your instrument, can't quite see it, but it says custom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of them have different amounts of those, you know, but in your touch screen, you can get, if you touch custom number 2, you should get something called drawbars. And let me see if I can actually point the camera at that. Hold on just a second. What a mess. My camera's collapsing on me. Sorry about that. So if I look at the screen here, it's not perfect, but if you, whatever tabs you have on, you'll see these volume controls. That's all drawbars are, is on the screen. For each of these tabs that are on, I could even control the volume. So if I want the low ones kind of quiet, I can keep them in there, but keep them quiet. And I can make the high-pitched ones really loud if I want. But that's getting really, really specific and making more work for you. And do we want that? No. I see people shaking their head. Very good. We don't want that. And that is why we use presets. So that's what I'm going to talk about for the next section, the second half, is using presets and sounds that are already put together for you. And what they are is just different combinations of those with different volumes through different types of pipes, like that picture I showed you with all the different flute ones and then some goofy looking ones. So any questions so far? Anything at all?
I don't see any questions, Sean. You're brilliant.
Oh, I don't think that's it. I think I'm just maybe confusing everybody. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll check our emails and our missed calls and see if we get some questions. But feel free, if anything's confusing you or if you have any questions at all, you're welcome to call after the class, talk to your PA or send an email or anything like that. This is a great class to kind of watch over and over again, too, so you can kind of understand how this instrument works and how it makes all those, how it makes and creates all those sounds for you. Carolyn,
Looks like
go ahead.
Carolyn.
You mentioned the upper drawbars, but you also have the lower drawbars. However, you're talking mostly on the upper flutes. Understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm talking about the upper keyboard. I'm not going to
Yeah.
worry about the lower keyboard because it's basically the same. So
Right, it
just
only
want to know that you
confused
have it
me.
on the upper keyboard where you're playing the melody sounds, because that's what we're talking about. On the left side, you can play any of these sounds with whatever rhythm you want to, and it won't make a difference. But on your right hand is where we're talking about putting all those great organ sounds. So, perfect, thanks. Next question. Oh, I don't have any. Okay. So what I'm going to get into now is talk a little bit about how to get a lot of these good organ sounds that are already done for you so that you don't have to. And I talked earlier on the Easy series, so like the Easy 10, for example, or the Discovery by Esty. You have 3 different organ types. There's Lowry, there's Hammond, or what we call jazz organ, or church organs / pipe organs. And I have the exact same thing on these big touchscreen models. So if you are a person who has an instrument with anything that says bank presets, okay, or bank setups, instead of just touching one button that says suite for Lowry, I touch bank A, and it actually gives me 10 more great Lowry organ sounds. So if I want to play something with a Lowry style sound, and like I said, a lot of those sounds are very nice for ballads and love songs and things like that. So automatically, rather than having one good sound, if I touch A combined with any number in the middle here, it's going to give me a preset combination of flute sizes and pipes and sounds, and you'll love it. So I'm just going to play through a couple of these with just some pretty song that I can think of off the top of my head, just with the easy button. So that is not just one Lowry organ sound, but it's actually combined with several different Lowry organs. So it's keep in mind, it's doing all that stuff for you, what I was showing you on the tabs earlier. So you don't have to think, okay, which ones do I use, you know? And you don't have all these big pipes sticking out of the organ. They're all digital, so they can be put away, and you don't have to clean them or tune anything. Ugh. So let's move on to the B bank. You guys might have seen this in a lesson. What is in the B bank? This is a much quieter group than yesterday. It's the Hammond sounds. They're based on Hammond organs. So, or as we call them here, jazz organ. Yep, jazz organ sounds. So same thing. Rather than just getting one, I get 1 plus 10 more famous Hammond style sounds. And they sound good with things like jazz music or really anything. I think upbeat stuff sounds really good with the Hammond organs. So let's do something like this just to kind of play through a few of them. Yeah, here we go. So a lot of really, really good fun sounding sounds that are based on Hammond organs in the B bank. And you just touch B and pick a number 1 through 10. Or I should say, as I did yesterday, 0 through 10. Because you also have a 0 position in most instruments. If it's A series or above, you have a 0 position, which means none of these buttons are on. That's 0. So then you can add to that and say, now I want 1 or 2 or 3. So you've got 11 different sounds. So, and as I mentioned before, the third popular organ type would be pipe organs. So that is our C bank. Our C bank, if I touch C, touch a number 1 through 10, I'm going to get really pretty pipe organ sounds. So you could go to church in your own home, play something like this here. So you even have, in addition to those organ sounds, if you want to play around with them, they usually put sound effects in these sound effect features. If you have those on your instrument, it'll automatically put something to go with it. Like I'm playing church organ, so what does it put in there? Church bells. So they kind of know what you want. So A, B, C, Lowry, Hammond, and pipes. Okay? So that's just one way to access all these different great organ sounds that are pre-made for you. And keep in mind, you know, some people ask, why is this organ so expensive? It's just an organ. It just has some country music and a guitar. But no, every single organ pipe, organ flute, is what's called sampled to put that sound in your organ for you. So that 16-foot, the 8-foot, they have to record them individually. So every sound in there is playing that live, real sound for each little pipe in the famous pipe organs that they're getting these sounds from. So that's a lot of work that goes into that. So anyway, in addition to that, if you don't want to use those ABC banks, you've got even more in these buttons over here on the right side. And what are those called? Category presets, yeah. So you have category presets that have great sounds as well. There's one of my favorites. There's one called, what's it called? Sacred. I was going to say scared. Sacred. But there's one called harmony organ. There's one called smooth flutes. I love the smooth flutes one. I'm going to play a couple of these for you because it just gives you a really nice, gentle sound. And all these flutes that it's combining, they're sampled from very smooth flute sounds, so no harshness to them. So let me play these. I'll get your question in a second. I see you, Connie. Hold on a second. But you get all these different kind of calm, smooth flutes. So you could play something like, let's use a rhythm and play something like this. So pretty sounds, and they're built in your categories. So you can kind of go through those and look and see what different categories are pre-made of different pipe organ sounds, different, jazz organ sounds. If you have a grand marquee or above, I believe they add these really nice, fancy, it's called new pipes. So it's made from like really clean, new sounding pipes. So Connie, go ahead. Let me get to your question here. I don't want to miss you.
Yes, under bank setup C, all I get is it says sax section in the setups.
That's because you have something saved or loaded into there. So these bank presets here, you see that memorize button to the left of them?
Yes.
That just means you can customize them and change them and say, I don't want those Lowry organ sounds. I want to put my big band settings in there. I can show you guys an easy way to clear those out if you want to. If you ever have something in there and you want to just take it out right away, I'll show you right here. I'll do it in front of you here. Touch and hold memorize, and then just touch the reset button like this. Memorize, reset, and then keep holding memorize until the screen comes up, and it'll say bank presets reset.
Where's the reset button?
The reset button is close to the power button. So if you know how to turn it on, look for the reset button near there.
Well, it says home. Home. The home button is the same.
Home.
Okay.
Yep. Should have said that. Home and reset. Same thing. Same thing. Yep.
Thank you.
Great question. Yeah. Yeah. What they do in, I think it is either the Imperial or the Sterling, they add a feature where if you don't want to lose what's in here, like maybe you want to save some stuff in here, save your settings for a song, but you don't want to lose those good Lowry or Hammond or church sounds, right? They actually back up those banks in your categories. So on this Sterling I'm playing on right now, for example, if I go a couple pages through different categories of sound, I see one that says Bank A, Bank B, Bank C. They're just kind of backing up the original sounds in there. So even if you put something in your banks, you can get them from the other location. Same things. You're just pulling it from a different spot. but it's the same sounds. That makes sense? Hopefully. All right, and I see a question in the chat. Does that reset all banks A through E at once? And yes, the answer to that is yes, it does. So when you reset your banks, it clears all of them out back to your factory settings, which are those sounds I just talked about. Okay. Another important thing to note, if you're ever using preset sounds, you should have a favorite button that goes along with that. If you have a touch screen, that means you have a really cool feature called preset or setup information, which if I touch just this button on the bottom left that says custom number 4. And all that means is you can change it to customize it to say something else, but we don't want to do that. We're just going to touch number 4. And then on my screen, it gives me information. So now on every single number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it actually tells you what it's going to come up with, what type of sound you get. So that's really good if you're going through a lot of these organ sounds and you want to know what they're doing. They just give you a better idea of what to expect. So touch number 4 and then look through those 1 through 10 buttons and find something you like. So, and as far as presets go, if you have an Easy Series instrument, that means I think Easy 10. I think this starts on the Easy 10. And if you have a fanfare or journey or something like that, you also have these. Since you do not have tabs on your organs, they actually give you preset organ sounds hidden away in your song setups. Yes. So keep this in mind if you have an Easy 10 or fanfare or journey. If you touch song setup, and instead of going up through the alphabet, you go down. So touch song setup and touch the down arrow. Instead of songs, at the end of the list, you see organ sounds, different organ combinations. You'll see different flute combinations. You might see one that says flute 16, 8, and 2. And it's kind of doing what we're talking about right now for you. It's just hidden in your song setup. So not everybody knows that. So make sure you use that if you have those. So that's about all I've got as far as organ stuff. I was going to mention one more thing, just as this is a really, really fun button to press. If you have any organ sounds, I think this starts on the Easy 4 that you can do this. There is a button that controls a separate organ sound that kind of is an organ effect, okay? Let me show this on the screen. Does this look familiar to anybody? If you unmute yourself, you can say if you know what that big box is. Does that look familiar to anybody?
It's a Leslie.
There we go. That is a Leslie speaker. And look, you have to have a spot for 2 organs in your house, basically, if you wanted one of those. So it's this big box with a couple big speakers in it. One of them on the top spins, so it gives you kind of a big rotary type sound, or a what's called vibrato. So it gives you a vibrato. This is a really cool effect if you want it to sound like somebody's singing, because when you hear somebody singing music, you hear what's called vibrato with their voice. So they'll usually sing a note, go, oh. Now I can't do it, so I have to shake my my gullet. But anyway, so it's creating that sound for you. It's on the left of your instruments if you have a touch screen. It says Vibratrem. That's what it's called, Flute Vibratrem. And now instead of having to have this big giant box in your house, you just touch a button. That's nice. So just for example, that's what I used at the beginning of this class when I was playing At Last. I was touching that button over and over again because it creates emotion. So you can have it off. I can say play it slowly. My cord got hooked. So I can make it go slow. And it creates a big difference when you're playing a song. You might not be able to hear it on here as well, but when you're playing a song, especially with a harmony on, like this, I'll just play an example for a second again, just so you can kind of hear it. I'm going to be turning it on and off and just listen for the difference. So yeah, hopefully you hear that difference of it kind of spinning and then slowing down and spinning. It just creates emotion in your music, and all you have to do is touch a button. If you want to, this is advanced, but you can make it even easier by making it advanced. You can either put that function on your touch bars. If you don't want to reach for the button, you can put that function into your touch bars, or your foot switch on your right foot there, or your foot pedals, your bass pedals. And we have classes where we've talked about doing that kind of stuff, but just know that you can do that. If you watch one of those videos, you can see how to put some different effects on your pedals or touch bars or what have you. So you can use that Vibratrim anytime, and that's even on the Easy 4. So if you have an Easy series, try that out too. So any questions before I wrap up? And I've got a really nice song I'm going to play for you on our way out. That'll put you kind of in a nice Christmas mood too, since it's that time of year. Robert, do we have any announcements?
Sean?
Yes, Connie.
Yeah. Oh,
One
sorry,
at a
this-
time.
This is Carol, and I have a marquee.
Okay.
To get, instead of just the A, B, C, D, E banks, we also have either vintage normal, and then two together is all organ sounds.
Yep.
That produces different organ sounds other than
Yep.
just doing bank sounds, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's based on the rhythm that you select. So that's what's called organ rhythm presets. So if you're playing a certain rhythm, it'll come up with different organ sounds based on that type of music. So.
could you go over the patreon.com that you talked about the other day?
Yeah, of course. I believe Robert may do that as well. I think he's
Oh, okay.
we could probably both chime in on that because it's something we kind of looked into together. It's a really, really great website. So,
Okay.
yeah. Any other questions? I think not. All right. I'll send it back to our studio.
Studio. Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Card there. I was trying to look up something on the website here. All right. You're one of my best educators ever that teaches classes on a December 3rd.
Thank you.
All right, couple things. First of all, I was thinking about this and I said, you know what? This is that time of the year. I've been getting about, I think like 40, 50, 60 emails a day from between Best Buy and Walmart and all these other places. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I ought to talk about a sale too. So just so you all know, just a reminder that yesterday we are spreading holiday cheer with our big holiday savings event, up to 60% off all Lowry and Esty organs. And if you see right here, it says through December 20th. So make sure you contact your personal assistant. You know, after all the doom and gloom that we have this year, I think it's fair to say that you deserve to treat yourself. Now, if you have a Marquee or Aria, and you think there's nothing I can upgrade to, go out and tell a friend and tell somebody this is the perfect time of the year to get started in the hobby of music making. We have a wonderful instrument called the Discovery 3. We have some Easy 2s. Some of you are familiar with that. I know some of you might have upgraded once or twice over the years, maybe 2, put your hand up, 3, 4. Some people are putting their hands and their feet up at the same time. They're going like this. I got this many organs I upgraded to. But some of you may have started on that Easy 2. We have some of those left. Those are great starter instruments. So I just want to say that's how we stay doing this kind of stuff. Also, if you want to jot this down, you're going to get email notifications on this, but I'll say it. But this Monday, the product feature class is going to be the SD and the Easy. I think Joe Fontessa is teaching that one. This Tuesday, the A series of the SU's product feature class. Jerome's, I believe, going to be doing that one. The variety class. Let me tell you how I'm going to do the variety classes this month. So this month, because we got a lot of different things that we're going to be doing, I'm starting next week. There's only going to be one variety class a week. All right. I'll give you the dates, but I'll also send these up on the email. The dates are going to be next Wednesday, the 9th, and I'm going to be teaching that particular class. On the following week, it's going to be on the 16th. And then on the following week, I'm sorry, the 17th rather, Thursday the 17th. And then on the following week, it's going to be on the 23rd. And then in the last month, lastly on the 31st. So those are all going to be the classes happening. Hopefully I got those dates right. I will get them updated. Oh, here they are. The 9th, 17th, 23rd, and the 31st. Okay.
At what time?
Same time as we typically do them, 12 p.m. AZ and 2 p.m. Eastern, and that will be on all of them. All right. So last but not least, we have starting next week. What I did is I took everyone that's in our email list and I split it up into 4 groups. We want to try to get a little more personalized, but we're going to have the Sounds of the Season virtual concert celebrations. This is going to be our annual Christmas party, and we know that we'll probably have a better attendance online than we will in store. Plus, we're not allowed to have more than so many people. So we thought we're going to have all different artists. So stay tuned in on your emails because we're going to have all sorts of different events happening. And you'll be getting an email for your Christmas parties. And I don't have the dates and times yet. I'm working on that, but you'll be getting those emails very, very soon, probably by Friday or Saturday. All right. And last but not least, Mr. Sean Maloney. Or do I have something else? Oh, the Patreon website. Basically, the Patreon website, it's called patreon.com/Fletcher Music Centers. It is, some content is free. You can view it without subscribing. I do post stuff. If you want to follow us on some of the content, you do have to set up an account, and it will encourage you to contribute to that. And that's completely okay. It's okay to cough up a few dollars. The staff and salespeople, they work really hard at putting the classes on there. And then by the time as a matter of fact, while the class was going on, this entire hour, I was uploading the last 4 or 5 days worth of videos. It takes a little time to do that. And also on that site, some of the materials that we have, we post on there as well. Now, if you are a patron, there's going to be some content that's not publicly viewed, and only people that are patrons will be able to see that. The Christmas parties that we're going to be doing, I believe we're going to be posting those just to the patrons. So some of it's free, some of it's not. Some of you have to contribute, some of you don't. That's the best answer I could give. It's a new site that I'm trying to work with, and it's definitely worth visiting because we're working on stuff that we're going to be posting on there that's not going to be live that you typically see. So like today, I'm going to record Jerome. He's going to do a little special Christmas song that he normally wouldn't feature or play. And I'm going to record him with my phone. I'm going to do a real nice recording of it. I'm going to put it on the Patreon website tonight as a bonus for our patrons. So just another avenue of getting the word out and giving you guys the information and getting some materials. Okay. Having said that, Mr. Sean Maloney, I'm going to turn it over to you to close off with this, whatever magnificent arrangement you said you're going to do. Put me in the Christmas mood, will you?
I will. And I hope y'all have your calendars marked because it's Christmas this year falls on the 25th this year. So you want to make sure you mark that. And somebody's going to be in town, I hear. Santa Claus, I think he's coming to town that day. So I'm going to play that song based on that on our way out here. And as I do, I'm going to use a couple of those organ sounds I like. I'm going to use the B Bank. So those Hammond style organ sounds. So I hope you enjoy it. This is Santa Claus is coming to town. So here we go. Thank you, thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's class and got a lot out of it that you can use there at home on any instrument. And not only that, but just have knowledge to teach other people how your organ works and how your flute tabs work, since that's kind of a tough subject we don't get to very often. So thanks again and have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, Sean.
Sean Maloney. You're my favorite Sean Maloney.
It's the only Sean
Thanks.
Maloney.
One of them.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Thanks.